Whether people or pets or the best place to go, Martin is the man to keep you in the know. It's the Yappy HD Show.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Yappy HD. I'm your host, Martin Lavender, and we're here with two new people to Vero Beach, a very new veterinary clinic. It is the Community Veterinary Clinic. And you're right over on 20th Street. I'd like to introduce Dr. Clark and his lovely wife, Rachel. Hello, welcome.
Thank you.
I'm so glad y'all could make it in today. Now, you've got a little different concept on your veterinary care. But first, I'd like to talk about how did you all make it to Little Vero Beach?
Initially, we made it through the corporation, through the veterinary industry, through Banfield. I interviewed with Banfield, it must have been back in 2012, and they mentioned we have an opening in Vero Beach, and I liked the idea of the beach, so I said, we'll take that opening, and we got lucky.
Sure. Now, before you got to Vero Beach, where did you originate from? Where did you start from?
Originally, I was born in Africa, born in Malawi, Central Africa. I went to boarding school in the UK from 11 onwards, and then university in the UK as well. And then I met Rachel in Zambia when I was working in the wildlife industry there, and that's how we met. We went on to vet school and eventually arrived here.
Now, when you went in Africa, you're obviously so surrounded with so much controversy now, and there's so many efforts to save the wildlife and the endangered species and such. What was it that got you into that or interested in that, and how's that working over there?
I mean, I've always been interested in that. Working in Africa, living in Africa, it just is inbuilt into you. So in terms of conservation, originally even when I went to Zambia, I was trying to work with wild dogs at the time. I ended up working with a great company called the Bush Camp Company for a few years, and Andy Hogg, the owner of that company, is also a big conservation person. It's just innate in a lot of people who live in those areas that they see what happens, and you just want to try and do something about it.
Do you find that in Africa, the inhabitants, the people who are actually from there, like yourself, but the indigenous people and such, do they just take it for granted, or are they very concerned, like it seems the rest of the world is, about the endangerment of lions and giraffes and elephants and things like that?
They have it's hard because they have to make a living and they have to eat, and then they live on the edges of parks where there's meat walking in the middle of the parks, and so some of them won't go into the parks and take animals, and others will. It's a difficult concept. How can you help people raise their standard of living, but for them to get protein, where are they going to get protein from? They either raise their own animals, they don't have the money to do that, so now the easy option is to just cross over the river and take some animals from the inside of the park.
There's that, and then the animals come out of the park, like the elephants come out and will eat their gardens. Mm-hmm. So there can be a lot of conflict between humans and animals living right on the edge of the parks, because they get very angry that the elephants come over. When I first moved there, I'd been there a couple of days, and there was a doctor there who was told us this funny story. He was treating this he said she was about 80 years old woman for a broken rib, because she'd gotten so fed up with the elephants coming over and eating her garden, she went out and whacked one of them. And then it knocked her over and broke her rib. So there, wow. I mean, that was a very kind of strange case and very physical contact, but they do a lot of things like they're trying to, because elephants are endangered. So the villagers are frustrated because they're taking their crops and then they can't eat. And, so it kind of, there's conflict going both ways. But what some of the projects that we support, like the Chip and Belly Education Trust do, is they come up with really fun and kind of innovative ways to solve these problems. So elephants don't like chili. So what they did is they crushed up chili and created a chili fence. So they paint the twine with chili
Wow.
and put it around the gardens, and then they won't come touch it anymore.
Interesting.
So you kind of have to be very creative over there. And one of the things that we love about the projects that we're supporting is they've got this creativity, and then not only that, but they're educating the children and saying the elephants are important. They're important to the village because you're bringing industry here. You're selling your vegetables to the lodges and things like that. So it's kind of a two-way street, but like John said, it's a little
So they ever
dicey.
get an elephant that likes a little spicy taste and just kind of like barrels
Gosh,
through the spicy fence?
They've got such super sensitive noses that they stay like hundreds of yards away from those linings. But the problem that they have with that is you cannot make 10 miles of cord with pepper on it. It costs
Sure.
quite a lot of money just to do a couple of yards. So they have difficulty with that, but they come up with, exactly like Rachel says, innovative ways to get, the indigenous people involved in everything. And, to go back to the question, they love their wildlife, that's for sure. I don't think they just have those frustrations which,
Sure.
send them with wildlife going down and human-wildlife conflict.
Yeah. It's like when there's conflicts like here in the States, my big saying is, well, you built your home in their home. But that's not really the case in Africa because, everybody was there. It was the beginning of civilization, as they say. And they also say the world goes as Africa goes. So, for us to support Africa and find solutions over there means saving the rest of the world. I've heard that several times. I don't know if I actually understand that.
I don't totally understand it myself. They do say that Africa is obviously the last saturated market and it has enormous resource. So, that might be what they're getting at is that
Sure.
it is the last place that you can raise standards of living, get people cell phones, start getting them houses, and then you've got this whole generation or whole continent that you can start building with, So there is all that development possibility in Africa, but the question is really, do you want to have that sort of development because it causes problems with wildlife,
So that's basically, I guess, is where your love of animals came from and your desire to help them and keep them going. So now that you're here in the United States, you're here in our little Vero Beach, Florida. Obviously, you weren't near a beach in Africa. Vero Beach, Florida. Tell us about your clinic.
So the clinic, I worked for a couple of years up in Palm Bay for a company called Florida 8 Animals, and when I was
Sure.
there, I saw that there is a need for people to get reasonably priced, medical attention and their spays and their neuters and their health care for their animals. And there was just a lot of people that came through the clinic and talked openly about it, and so I just felt like it's something that to come back down to Vero Beach and maybe start something similar,
Sure.
and just provide that same community-based feel in Vero Beach and see where we could go with it.
Right, and it's like, you always kind of stay away from the term low cost, but you're very reasonably priced so that everyday people, even like me, can take advantage of getting our dog's teeth cleaned maybe a little more often because it's almost half the price, going to you. And you're able to do a lot of things, but there are certain things you don't do in your clinic. You're there for the basic care and quality of a pet's life, but what are some of the things you can do and some of the things you don't at this time?
So we've kept it as simple as the elective surgeries, the spays and the neuters, and getting masses removed, hematoma repairs on the ears, and then in terms of medical sort of side, we don't have radiographs. So broken legs and dogs that aren't bearing weight, they certainly couldn't come and see us. Dogs that are vomiting and diarrhea, there's a possibility of foreign body, so it needs radiograph. So anything which needs a radiograph it's unlikely to come through us. But many of the reasons why people feel guilty is that their dog has a simple skin infection and it just gets away from them,
right.
And that we can solve. And we can solve all their ear problems. We can solve a few of their eye problems, or many of the eye problems, and just some general illnesses. We can check to see if they've got problems. Have they got diabetes? Have they got renal failure?
Sure.
We can run these blood tests to see
worms, giardia, basic things like that.
And so we can help them in a large number of cases. Just once it becomes a complicated case with broken legs or big
Sure.
internal problems, we will be referring it
Refer
away.
them out.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how the Blue Ribbon Charitable Foundation that I had came about. It was people who couldn't afford basic medical care for their pets.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's why I'm anxious to get you on the show, not just because y'all are just super nice people, but your whole premise is giving back to the community also, and to causes that need giving too. Tell us about it. It was so cool, and I'm furnishing the African room, people. If you haven't noticed, there's more. But check out the African room. But each room you have has a kind of a specific purpose and such. So tell us about that. How'd you come up with that idea even?
We just came up with that together. We had the 3 rooms. We love the 3 places.
So our 3 places, we should probably tell everybody, are Grenada, so in the West Indies, which is where we lived for a while,
Mm-hmm.
Africa, and then Florida, Indian River County specifically. So we picked conservation causes in those 3 places. We've got the Environmental Learning Center in Indian River County, which is phenomenal. Everyone should go see it. Ocean Spirits, which protects the sea turtles in Grenada and kind of through the Caribbean, even up into our waters. And then the South Luangwa Conservation Society in Zambia, as well as Chimpabelli Wildlife Education. So we just thought, well, we've got these 3 rooms, let's make it fun and theme them, and then maybe our mission would kind of be carried out in a physical way throughout the clinic. When people come in, you get to pick where you want your money to go. So we donate a portion of every single veterinary service to one of the 3 causes, and you get to decide where you want it to go. So we've got a little reading material about all of the causes in each room, and so we just thought it would be fun to kind of help us bring conservation to life for people. And we appreciate you helping us furnish Africa.
Yeah, if we're working the room, it might as well work, So if you just put a little bit of the room towards each cause, and what is it? A waterfall is started by a raindrop. You can just slowly just build. So that's the idea, and we're hoping it's going to take off.
Well, I know it will. It's a great cause. It's a great veterinary clinic, and we all need affordable health care for our pets. And as soon as we're done here, I'm going to be calling to make dental appointments. I have a few dogs that are a little bit past due. Thank you so much for coming in, and we're going to have all the contact information on the screen, as you see at the bottom. But go ahead and tell us how we find you, how we get a hold of you.
So the easiest way to get a hold of us, is to have a look at the website. The website is www.vbcvc.com. We're on 20th Street going west between 18th Avenue and 20th Avenue, right opposite the big red and white quick stop sign.
And just south of the St. Helens, Dr. Aiken's old clinic. Everyone knows where Dr. Aiken's old clinic was. That's the greatest way to show it. And very easy to find, accessible, Thank you so much for coming in. This is Martin Lavender with the Happy Yappy HD show. Tune in for other great shows coming up.